De Microsoft Surface Laptop 7 draait helemaal om AI. Het is een Copilot Plus PC, aangedreven door een van Qualcomm's nieuwste Snapdragon Elite processors. Dat is een combinatie die deze machine echt aan de voorhoede plaatst van de nieuwste technologie die naar de massa komt. Zou dit een blik kunnen zijn op de richting waarin laptops zich ontwikkelen? Is dit een laptop voor de toekomst? Laten we er eens naar kijken en zien. The Microsoft Surface Laptop 7 is all about AI. It's a Copilot Plus PC powered by one of Qualcomm's latest Snapdragon X Elite processors. That's a pairing that really puts this machine on the front edge of the latest tech that's coming to the masses. Could this be a glimpse at where laptops are heading? Is this a future laptop? Let's have a look at it and see. Hi guys, I'm Matt and welcome to Kit Guru. So when this laptop landed with me for review, the question that I just posed in that intro immediately came to mind. Is this where laptop tech is heading? Are we destined for an AI-powered future? And if that is the case, how useful is AI and laptops like this right now? So I thought I'd put it to the test with this video. My goal was to solely use the laptop to create the review of the laptop and for general work and web browsing and stuff like that. A sort of laptopception style breakaway from my usual desktop PC. I've of course tested it with a number of different benchmark suites too, which I'll weave in as we head through the review, but a lot of my usual tests don't work with the ARM-based Qualcomm processor that's found in this machine, hence why I've taken a bit of a more user-based approach this time around. First, let's kick things off with a look at the design. After using the machine for a bit, while setting stuff up and just downloading all the different stuff that I'd need to use this machine, it became clear that Microsoft have the MacBook Air firmly in their sights with the Surface Laptop 7. As far as design goes anyway, it just so happens that I've just bought a MacBook Air during the Black Friday sales, so putting them side by side shows just how much of Apple's homework Microsoft have been copying. The Surface is a sleek and portable laptop. The chassis is made entirely from recycled aluminium, and it looks pretty good to my eyes. I was sent the 13.8-inch model to look at, but it's available in 15-inch too. Both available in a few different colours. The one that I've got here is what Microsoft called Dune. This 13-inch model weighs around 1.34 kilograms, so it's pretty lightweight and could easily be carried around if your work takes you out of the office or out of your home and out and about and on the road. In terms of I/O, it's mostly all on the left-hand side. There's a pair of USB-C 4.0 ports that support charging and connecting external displays and docks. Then there's a single USB-A 3.1 port and a headphone jack. Then over on the right-hand side is the magnetic charging cable port, which Microsoft call Surface Connect. One of the only issues I have with the design that I've noticed during my use is the sharp-ish edges to the chassis. I'm not saying they're razor sharp, but after a bit of time typing, they do become noticeable under your wrists. Aside from that though, first impressions were pretty good. It's a good looking laptop. I personally wouldn't go with this colour if it were me buying one, but in terms of shape, size and weight, I like it. During my time with the Surface laptop, I've put a decent amount of use through the keyboard, the trackpad, and as well as staring at the screen for a fair while too. These three areas are, in my opinion, some, if not the most important things to consider when eyeing up a laptop, alongside battery life and performance. How you interact with the machine can make or break the experience. The trackpad on this Surface Laptop 7 is without a doubt the best I've ever used in anything that isn't a MacBook. It doesn't physically click down, but it's got very, very good haptic feedback, so it feels like it does. It's satisfying to press and it's responsive to gestures with up to 4 fingers. Once you get used to them, they're convenient and they make navigating windows much more fluid. It's a decent size too. It's not too big, it's not too small. Moving on to the keyboard, I like that as well. It's compact, but it hangs onto the arrow and the function keys, something which I use quite a lot. Typing up my notes and plan for this video using the Surface laptop was a really satisfying experience. The key travel, coupled with the tactile feel of the switches, both come together so that you feel it when you've actuated a key, but it's not too much that typing can get tiresome. Smashing out the script for this video without any issues at all was a really satisfying experience. The screen on this model is a 13.8-inch Pixel Sense Flow display. It's a touchscreen panel with a resolution of 2304 by 1536. That's a 201 pixels per inch density, and it's got a 1400:1 contrast ratio and up to 120 Hz dynamic refresh rate. Microsoft market it as a HDR capable display, and it does a decent job at producing some really deep blacks and very vibrant colours. There's clear improvement when you turn HDR on in Windows when viewing certain content. It's not an OLED though, which is a bit of a miss, especially as we're now beginning to see OLED screens come down in price quite a bit. That doesn't take too much away from this screen though. It's crisp, vibrant and punchy, and I like it.
As a world-leading manufacturer, CyberPower PC UK expertly builds each PC with the largest range of parts available in the UK. We handle all your packages with care and ship them directly to you on next day delivery. Visit cyberpowersystem.co.uk.
Another thing that's punchy about this laptop is the speakers. They get really quite loud for a laptop, and they don't sound bad either. Admittedly, they're not going to go toe-to-toe with any half-decent dedicated set of speakers, but they're more than good enough for built-in laptop speakers. The built-in Surface Studio camera will capture video at 1080p and is the first place we start to see the AI features appear in the form of Windows Studio effects. This is a set of camera and mic tricks that aim to make you look and sound better. Here's a run through of the features and a demo of the camera and mic quality. So this is the 1080p footage you're going to get out of the built-in camera on the Surface Laptop 7, and from me just looking at the screen and watching back the recording as I'm making it, it looks okay. The colour is nice and bright in the background, the green and stuff on the wall and the baubles that I've put up for Christmas, but it's still a built-in laptop camera, so it's never going to stand up to a dedicated, decent-ish webcam. And this is the microphone as well. This is currently on 80% volume. So let's just run through some of the features quickly that you can get out of the AI sort of tools and tricks that are built in to this camera and this microphone. First up is automatic framing, which I've just turned on. So if I back away from the camera a bit, you'll see it'll start to pan around and follow me around the scene, and it'll try and keep me centered in the frame. Useful if you move around quite a lot in meetings. Next up is portrait lighting, hence why I've gone all grainy and turned off my studio lights. If I flick portrait lighting on now, you can see it adds a bit of light to my face, but it's nothing major. And then next up is eye contact, which will keep it so it looks like your eyes are constantly looking at the camera, which it is a bit of a weird effect if you watch it. It doesn't work too well on this laptop. This is a feature that we first saw, that I'm aware of, that was first in NVIDIA broadcast software a few years ago now, and it's starting to make its way into different laptops and different webcam sort of software suites. And then next up, we've got a couple of different background blurs that you can turn on. This one is portrait blur. You can see the edge detection is struggling a little bit around my head, so it's not amazing. It's not like using a proper camera. And then you've got standard blur, which absolutely blurs out everything in the background, useful for if you've got some mess in the background in a meeting or something like that. Then finally, we have creative filters, which you saw in the B-roll a second ago. You can make yourself look illustrated like this. You can turn on watercolor, which kind of looks the same as the illustration one. And then finally, you've got animated. Why anyone would want to look like this in a work environment is beyond me, but it's there as an option if you want it. So the laptop also comes with something called Microsoft Windows Studio Voice Focus, which is basically noise suppression. It's turned off at the moment, and if I hit a keyboard, you can probably more than likely hear that in the background. And now I'll turn it on and we'll hear the difference. So that is now hitting that same keyboard, but now with the effect turned on. So hopefully you shouldn't hear that keyboard in the background. I won't know what it sounds like until I've watched the video. So I'll watch it back and give you my thoughts in a second. Coming out of that clip then, and we can hear that the noise suppression works very, very well. It does have a little bit of a negative effect on the overall quality of the mic, but if you're someone that works from home and it can get a bit noisy, then that feature will come in handy and you'll take that little bit of a loss in clarity over not being able to hear kids or dogs or whatever it is in the background. Let's talk performance then. The Surface Laptop 7 comes with a variety of different specs. I'll cover the options and pricing at the end of the video, but this model sent out for the review contains a Snapdragon X Plus X1E 80-100 processor. This is a 12-core chip with a max multi-core frequency of 3.4 GHz and a dual-core boost frequency of 4 GHz. Running my usual Cinebench R23 benchmark tests on this machine would have been slightly, if not totally pointless, as the software doesn't recognise the CPU and instead lists virtual CPU when you open it up. This is still the same sort of situation as Leo found in his review of the Asus Swift 14 AI. A variety of software doesn't work on ARM and hasn't had ARM-specific version releases just yet. So instead, we have to move over to Cinebench 2024, which does have an ARM release available for download. Running through a multi-threaded 30-minute benchmark, and we can see that for the first 5 minutes of the benchmark, the Snapdragon chip runs all cores at 3.4 GHz, with the CPU temperature hitting 94 degrees. We still aren't able to monitor the power, so I can't tell you how much power was used during that run. That run resulted in a multi-core score of 828 points. And out of curiosity, I ran the same test on my MacBook, which is an M3 MacBook Air, to compare against, and I got a result of 586 points, which puts this Surface Laptop 7 a fair bit ahead of the Apple MacBook. It's not really an apples to apples comparison though, but it gives an indication that the Snapdragon processor found in the Surface Laptop, while still in its kind of architectural infancy, is certainly no slouch. If you're looking for a new chair, then definitely go and check out boolies.co.uk. They offer a whole host of gaming and office chairs that come in a variety of different finishes and different colours. Moving back into real world use then, as I mentioned at the start of the video, the real test for me with this laptop was how it handled my day-to-day creative work. The laptop that I'm using has 16 gig of memory and a 512 gig SSD. You can spec it higher than this, but it bumps up the price pretty massively. Installing Premiere Pro highlighted another one of the pitfalls of using a CPU architecture that's still relatively new to Windows computers. There's no native ARM64 version of the software available, just like the Cinebench problem I encountered. Instead, this time around, Adobe Creative Cloud will prompt you to install an Intel-based version while you wait for them to develop a native edition of the program. That's just with Premiere Pro. Photoshop doesn't have this issue. So let's jump into some editing then, and before we dive into Premiere Pro and look how this thing performs with editing this video, you'll notice that I've put the Surface Laptop on this dock, which gives me wired networking. It's got a built-in M.2 drive, so I'm not relying on the internal storage of the laptop itself, and is giving me USB-C connection to this bottom monitor and HDMI connection to this top monitor, giving me much more real estate to work with when I'm editing, dragging and dropping files and that sort of stuff, because one thing I wouldn't want to do is edit a video unless I was desperate on a 13-inch or 13.8-inch built-in display. I need some space to work. So let's get into Premiere Pro and look how this thing works. So I'm in Premiere Pro and I'm about 3/4 of the way through getting this review finished. And so far, the editing experience on this Intel compatible version rather than the ARM64 native version of Premiere Pro has been fine. Timeline scrubbing works fine with the playback set at half quality. Can scrub around. It's not perfect, but it is definitely serviceable. Adding in B-roll clips and stuff like that. I've got various parts of the video where there are multiple clips layered on top of one another. There's color grading on certain clips. I'd definitely be able to work with this. I wouldn't like to work with it all the time. I'd like something a bit more powerful with a bit more memory and a bit more storage, like the desktop PC you see there. That's got double the amount of memory. But if I was to be working more out and about and not based in my office pretty much 99% of the time, then I'd definitely be more than happy using this thing for my sort of creative job. One area where this laptop absolutely excels is battery life. It's honestly quite shocking how long it lasted through a Procyon Office battery life test, hitting 20 hours. When you use it in the real world for browsing and work, it just goes and goes and goes. I find myself mousing over the little battery icon and just being shocked that it hasn't drained 20% of the battery and it's still on 90-odd%. It's honestly, the battery life's brilliant. So let's go over the other question I posed at the start of the video, AI. How useful is AI right now? The Surface Laptop 7 is an official Copilot Plus PC, as I mentioned earlier, meaning that it's got an AI assistant from Microsoft built in and a dedicated button on the keyboard for accessing your sort of robot butler assistant. And although admittedly, I've moaned about AI in the past, especially when it's used as a buzzword to help sell products, like the earbuds that I looked at recently. I do find it quite useful in its sort of Copilot, Chat GPT sort of form. Using it in its Copilot form on this laptop, we'll see it do stuff like quickly summarize information to save you having to trawl through search results to find what you're looking for. It's basically a very advanced search engine that also has a generative and creative side, being able to conjure up images, spit out bits of code, or create schedules. That's one thing I've used it for that was really useful. I used it to organize my work tasks, and it does a very good job on the most part. The key thing though with this and any other AI is feeding it with the correct information. If you're specific about what you want, then you'll get better results. For example, you'll get better results typing in something like generate a weekly work plan, working 9 hours a day between 9 AM to 9 PM, allow 30 minutes for lunch and 30 minutes for an afternoon school run at 3:15 PM, rather than just putting in generate a weekly work plan. But that kind of goes without saying. Once you learn how to interact with it to get the results you want, it can be a very powerful tool. Aside from the text prompts, the Surface Laptop also has AI baked into the Microsoft Paint app in the form of Image Creator and Co-Creator. Image Creator does exactly what it sounds like. You feed it a prompt and it will generate an image, like Midjourney, if any of you have ever used that. So if you want a picture of a dog riding a skateboard through a jungle with explosions in the background, then just say no more, type that in and you've got it. Co-Creator puts more of the creative power in your hands. You enter a description in the box and then start drawing. And the AI will generate an image based off of what you're drawing and what you've said you want to generate. I can't help but have the feeling though that this would work much better if your artistic skills stretched farther than the stickmen that I drew. Overall, AI is a big part of this laptop and many other laptops that are coming out. Whether you use it or not is, I guess, personal preference. But when it's used in the right way, it can be very, very helpful. And I think it's only going to go and get better in the future. Finally, before we wrap up the video then, the big thing, how much does it cost? When I first looked at this laptop when I got it out of the box, I immediately thought it's going to be north of £2,000 easily. But I was pleasantly surprised. The Surface Laptop 7 starts at £1,049 for the base spec, which is a 13.8-inch screen, a 10-core Snapdragon CPU, 16 gig of memory and a 256 gig SSD. Picking up this exact model that I've been looking at through this video pushes the price up to £1,449. That sees you nab an extra 2 CPU cores and the storage is doubled. If you max out the specs, that does indeed push the price up to the level that I first expected. It's £2,149 for a 12-core CPU, a terabyte of storage and 32 gig of memory. That base spec model coming in at £1,049 seems a pretty good deal to me though. For a laptop that's this thin, that's built well, has exceptional battery life and has an amazing trackpad and a good keyboard, it's not too bad at all. It's a little bit cheaper than a similar spec MacBook Air M3. To wrap things up then, I really like the design of this laptop. It's a great looking machine, it's portable, it's well made, it's great to work on and it feels really good quality. The hinges are really good. Performance wise, it's been mostly a great experience too. It handled me using it for making this video with relative ease. The only hiccup being that Premiere Pro doesn't have an ARM64 version available just yet. I can't blame Microsoft for that though, Adobe are the ones developing it. And that point will certainly apply to more than just Adobe too. There will be more software that doesn't work on ARM just yet, so that's definitely something to bear in mind if you're thinking about picking one up. The battery life, that kind of wraps this up. That has to be the major highlight. It's exceptional. If you're someone who works on the road a lot, then this is definitely going to appeal to you based on that feature alone. And the price is pretty good too. I've not got too much bad to say about the Surface Laptop 7 really. My only real issues are the sharpish edges to the chassis. They get a bit uncomfortable after typing for a bit. And then there's the few compatibility issues that I ran into. Other than that, I'd happily use this laptop for work when I was away from my desk. But I'll definitely be switching back to my main PC for the bulk of my work. And that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like down below if you did. Don't forget to subscribe to Kit Guru to keep up with the latest PC gaming news and reviews. And go down below the video into the description and just below the video to find links to our merch store and links to our Patreon page, our Discord server and our website. Anyway, guys, I've been Matt. That's been the Surface Laptop 7 from Microsoft, a Copilot Plus PC with AI. AI is here to stay, I reckon. I'll speak to you in the next one. Look after yourselves. See you later.